So I don't want to take the fact that two of Donald Trump's cabinet nominees have already withdrawn, and Trump's not even president yet, and we haven't even had the swearing in of the new Congress yet. We haven't even had the start of any confirmation hearings for anybody, and two of Trump's cabinet nominees have already withdrawn. I don't want to take that fact and blow it out of proportion, because historically speaking, this kind of thing does happen from time to time. It's not that unusual for someone to be nominated for a position in the cabinet of an incoming president or even a current president who needs to fill a vacancy, and for that person to accept the nomination at first, and then something happens or some news story about them breaks, some scandal becomes public knowledge, and that person will say, you know what, thanks, but no thanks, I'm good, and then the president will have to pick somebody else. Like, that's happened before. But it's tempting to look at the fact that two of Trump's cabinet nominations have now withdrawn. And we're only just barely a month past the election. It's tempting to take that and to take it as a reflection maybe of the poorness of Trump's vetting process, of the unreliability, perhaps, of Trump's judgment. Like, it's maybe evidence that he makes very poor decisions, that he is mentally and intellectually unfit for the job that he has been elected to. I mean, we know all that already. I'm not trying to act like we haven't known. We knew that when he got elected the first time in 2016. We definitely know it beyond a shadow of a doubt now. But just in case there is any doubt in anyone's mind, like, two of his cabinet nominees have already been forced to withdraw from the process. He's not even president yet. And it seems possible, perhaps even likely, that there will be more to follow. And it just seems natural in light of these events to say, maybe he should do a better job at vetting people. Maybe if he had done a better job at vetting people and listening to his advisors, who perhaps were telling him not to nominate certain people, maybe we wouldn't have had something like fucking Matt Gaetz nominated for Attorney General and then forced to withdraw very shortly thereafter because he's fucking Matt Gaetz. Hello. And just recently, we've also had the case of Chad Chronister, who was appointed or was nominated by Trump to serve as the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. He was forced to withdraw in relation to actions he took during the COVID-19 pandemic and also remarks he has made in the past about immigration. And by the way, before I move on from Chronister, I just want to make it clear that the supposed offenses that he committed that have apparently led to him pulling his name from consideration for head of the DEA, it's stuff he did that MAGA Republicans are mad about, that most reasonable people would actually consider to be good things. Chronister is the sheriff of Hillsborough County, Florida, and one of the really offensive, controversial things he did that got a lot of Trump supporters really angry when they heard that Trump was nominating him to head the DEA was during COVID, when there were still lockdowns. Remember when that was a thing, when we had actual COVID lockdowns for like 5 minutes and everybody lost their fucking minds? But when there were lockdowns during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, in his capacity as sheriff, Chronister actually enforced a COVID lockdown restriction and arrested the pastor of a church who had continued to hold services in flagrant violation of the lockdown regulation, and to the incredible risk of all the people in his community, especially the people who actually went to those church services. So this pastor did something really dumb and really dangerous and against lockdown restrictions, and Sheriff Chronister, the chief law enforcement officer of his county, did the novel thing of actually enforcing the fucking law against a guy who was flagrantly breaking it and risking public health while doing so. But, lockdowns were bad, right? Lockdowns were a violation of our civil liberties. It's violation. Don't require us to be responsible during a public health crisis that is eventually going to get like 1 million people in this country killed. How dare you, sir? So the Republicans, the Trump supporters are mad at him for that because he arrested a guy who flagrantly and dangerously violated a public health restriction during a fucking global pandemic. And the other thing that they're mad at him about is he said that state and local law enforcement officials should not be performing federal immigration enforcement. Oh, they don't like the sound of that either. No. Wait a minute. What? Is he pro-immigrant now? And he has made other remarks in that context about how immigration is a good thing and diversity in the community is a good thing. And if the federal government feels the need to enforce some kind of immigration policy and to arrest people or to deport people or whatever, well, they have personnel that can do that. And it's not the proper role for local or state law enforcement to participate in that. It's not our jurisdiction. It's not within our purview. Oh boy, they hated that too. So Chronister had to withdraw for like the dumbest possible reasons. I'm sure he's a bad guy in he's a fucking Republican sheriff in Florida. And Trump thought enough of him to nominate him in the first place. So I'm sure he's a piece of shit in 1,000 different ways. But none of those ways were what led to him having to withdraw his nomination. It was two things he did that actually were completely reasonable that nobody could possibly have any reasonable problem with. But so him and Matt Gaetz, they have both had to withdraw their nominations after Trump put them up to serve in his incoming administration. And you might start to ask yourself, well, maybe he should be doing a better job of vetting these picks. But you wouldn't be asking yourself that if you were, for example, Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville.
But don't you think both sides should do the vetting?
Well, yeah, to some degree. But we have to be convinced. They should do all the background work. They should go after our nominees. I've not heard very little from the left. Donald Trump did all the vetting they needed to do on Pete Hegseth, and I just can't believe we even have people on our side that are saying, well, I've got to look at this, got to look at that. What they're doing is they're throwing rocks at Donald Trump. They're not throwing them at Pete Hegseth. They're throwing them at Donald Trump because they're saying, well, we don't believe you did the right vetting, and we don't believe he can do the job. Wait a minute. That's not our job to do that. That's the Democrats.
Jesus Christ. This isn't the main reason I played that clip for you, but I don't want to just glide past how utterly servile Tuberville sounds in that clip. Well, it's not the Republicans' job to challenge President Trump's cabinet picks. That's the Democrats who should do that. It's not our job. If one of us Republicans challenges President Trump's cabinet nomination, why, that's just like throwing rocks at President Trump. I realize, Senator Tuberville, that within the Republican caucus, there is now a energetic competition to see who gets to actually be the one to go to the National Archives and put their fist through the glass and pull out the actual physical paper document of the Constitution and carry it to President Trump so that when he decides it's time to wipe his ass with it, that you can be the one to hand it to him, right? I know that you're all fighting with each other over who gets the honor of doing that when the time comes, but confirmation hearings for presidential appointees include both parties, and members of both parties are allowed to ask questions and to challenge the nominations if they know of a reason why they think the nomination should be challenged. There's a reason why they don't just invite the Democrats to poke holes in it and then everybody has a vote. Like, Republicans and Democrats are both there at the same time. And I don't know if you realize this, Tommy, but Republicans are allowed to not vote for the president's nominations if they decide that that person should not be confirmed. I know this is like radical thinking to you, but it's kind of how the system is supposed to work. The role of the Senate is advice and consent in the nominations of the president, not rubber stamp. That's why you have a vote. That's why you don't just make suggestions to the president, but then the president is allowed to do whatever they want. You do actually have a vote to confirm the nominations, and that's why you do that. Because it's not supposed to be just a rubber stamp. But anyway, his point there seems to be that, well, Republicans, especially in the Senate, shouldn't worry about vetting these nominees because we should just assume that Trump did that already, right? Why, Donald Trump wouldn't have picked this person to serve in his administration if he didn't have full confidence in him. Clearly, Trump has done the work for us, and all we have to do is vote to approve because, according to Senator Tuberville and a lot of other Republicans, that's their appropriate role in this process. My assumption, based on past experience and based on watching Donald Trump for many years, is that he has vetted many of these people that he has nominated to serve in his cabinet, and that vetting process consisted of Donald Trump watching those people on the TV. This is an article from Media Matters by Matt Gertz. That's Matt Gertz. Headline, Trump used Fox to vet his defense secretary. It isn't going well, but now the network is fighting back. The nomination of Pete Hegseth, the weekend Fox and Friends host Donald Trump selected to serve as defense secretary, is in trouble. Weeks of disturbing stories about Hegseth's character and competence have Republican senators sitting on the fence, while Trump himself is reportedly contemplating other options. But Hegseth's Fox colleagues, who initially ignored the reports, have finally come to his defense over the last day, setting up a potential test of the influence the right-wing propaganda network will hold over the second Trump administration. Hegseth is wildly underqualified to lead the Pentagon. The defense secretary's job is to oversee a massive bureaucracy with millions of military and civilian employees and a budget in the hundreds of billions. And while Hegseth is a decorated military veteran, he has no experience managing such a large organization. For Trump, however, Hegseth has the skills and experience required for any position. The former president likes his work on TV. Hegseth spent the past decade as a Fox talking head. In that role, he pontificated about the perils of allowing women to serve in combat roles, defended U.S. service members and contractors who had been accused or convicted of war crimes, and floated military assaults on Iran and North Korea. And as the article goes on to recount, and as many of us who have been following this story know already, Hegseth has been investigated in the past for sexual assault. He has been forced to resign from multiple nonprofits that he was helping to run due to allegations of sexually inappropriate conduct as well as financial misconduct. So he doesn't seem like the best guy to be Secretary of Defense, to be running the Pentagon. But Trump really likes the fact that he's on TV. He thinks he's doing a great job because Trump likes it that he's on TV. And now the Fox News channel are fighting. The people on the Fox News channel are fighting back because they realize, oh shit, if everybody knows that Trump only picked this guy because he likes watching him on our channel, and then he doesn't get the job, that makes us look bad. We have to fight for this guy, right? And look, I don't know what's going to happen with Pete Hegseth. I don't know if he's going to be forced to withdraw. I don't know if he's going to be confirmed. I have no idea. By the time you're watching this, he may already have announced, I'm pulling out. It's too much of a distraction to the good work that President Trump is trying to do, or whatever excuse he'll use. That may have happened by the time you're seeing this, or it may not ever happen and he may end up being Secretary of Defense. I honestly have no idea. And I have no idea what's going to happen with Kash Patel, Trump's nominee for director of the FBI, who is just as grossly unqualified for that job and just as dangerous a pick for that job as Pete Hegseth is for Secretary of Defense, and as Matt Gaetz would have been and Pam Bondi is for Attorney General. I mean, all of these people suck because they were picked by Donald Trump. And many of them he didn't even pick for anything approaching a valid, respectable reason. He picked them because he likes them and they like him, and he saw them on TV and he thought they were good on TV. And that's how he makes his decisions. And That's why Trump himself is so grossly unqualified to be the president of the United States. But this is where we're at. This is where we're at. This is the world that we have to live in for the next 4 years, where these people, either these specific people or people like these people that Trump will be able to push past the Senate, are going to be in charge. And beyond the peril that these people represent to democracy and the rights and freedoms and well-being of millions of people in this country, beyond all that, this shit is just embarrassing. Like, this is embarrassing. It's embarrassing that these people are in charge of this country. It's embarrassing that so many tens of millions of Americans voted for these people to be in charge and are happy about this and are proud of this. If you're proud of this, if you voted for this, if you voted for Donald Trump, if you think this is a good thing, if you're cheering this on, like this is positive change, we took our country back. If that's you, you embarrass me. And I would say if you knew any better, you would embarrass yourself too, but you don't know any better. And you're not capable of embarrassment because you have no shame. And that's kind of the problem, isn't it?